How to make a bedroll. In this video, we're going to go through the type of equipment required, and then we'll go through the technique of making your bedroll, and then summarize the end with the why, what, where, when. First of all, with your ground sheet tarp, the minimum size is 1.8 meters by 2.4 meters. The largest we suggest is 2.4 meters to 3 meters. This all depends on the quality of the tarp, whether you're going lightweight, medium, or heavy duty. If you're going with the larger tarp, you need to make sure it's lightweight or medium, because when you fold it in half to be the size of your bed, it means that it won't be as hard to roll up if it's not heavy duty. And then we need some rope. You need about 3.5 to 5 meters of length, depending on the bulkiness of your bedroll and how much of a handle you want to make. If you go with a cotton cord, you can use that, and you can do some whipping at the end or some tape to stop it from fraying, or you can go with a polyester synthetic rope, which means you can cut it, burn it, and melt the end so it doesn't fray. You can buy rope at either hardware shops, discount shops, or camping stores. Sleeping bags are graded based on their degrees of temperature. Because we have all the other equipment in our bedroll, this is not necessary unless you're doing high altitude or -5 degrees. The sleeping bag, it's important it's the right length and you fit inside it. Sleeping mats, you can either go with foam or inflatable. This is probably dependent on your budget and availability, as long as it's comfortable and the right size. Pillows, either a soft pillow or a self-inflating pillow, whatever you have available or in your budget. Blankets, woolen blankets are the best to keep you warm. One is definitely required. A second one is optional. You can get these from the guide shop or from most camping stores. Having an inner bag is an option. You can either have a jelly bag, which is a loosely knitted bag, or you can have something that is silk or cotton as a liner. These silk or cotton liners can be purchased, or you can just sew one up yourself. This helps to have an extra layer of warmth and to help keep your sleeping bag clean. When we're assembling our bedroll, you start with your ground sheet on the ground, and then you add your sleeping mat or your inflatable mat, whichever one you have. You then place a blanket on the sleeping mat, and it goes half on the sleeping mat and half off. Your second blanket goes on top of that, half on the sleeping mat and half off on the opposite side. Place your sleeping bag on top of the 2 layers of blanket. Ensure that you include your jelly bag or your sleeping liner inside your sleeping bag. Fold over the blankets in the order that you place them. The first one goes over, then the second one. Make sure you don't forget your pillow. Rolling a bedroll can be personal preference. You may have been shown a certain way, or going on a camp that requires you to have your bedroll a certain way, depending on whether there's a floor in the tent, no floor, or no tent. There are 3 different ways that are common. It can be rolling your bedroll with the ground sheet, rolling your bedroll and then wrapping in a ground sheet, or placing your bedroll inside a sealed up ground sheet and then rolling it inside the pocket. Here is one way being demonstrated. And then we're going to start rolling. Fold in the 2 sides of the plastic ground sheet. The 2 ends should be rolled together in the middle of the bed so that it makes it liquid tight. Start at the head end, which is the bulkier end, and make sure that you tuck the ground sheet around the bed. If you have some guides to help you, they can hold the 2 ends together across the middle of the bed while you're rolling. As you roll, keep it nice and tight, and then when you get to the end, make sure that you tuck that ground sheet around your bed so that no bedding is shown. Now you'll take your rope and you'll make a loop, either by doing a packer's knot, or you can just do a double overhand at the end of the rope to make a little loop, and you can thread the other end through so that it has an adjustable loop that you can pull over the bedding roll. Now do it nice and tight around the bedroll. Hold the rope with one hand while you make another loop around the bedroll and then bring it back through itself so that you can tighten a second loop around the bedroll. Now flip the bedroll and go around on the back and tuck around the first loop and then go across to the second loop and tuck around. Now flip and come back. What you will do now is you'll go around the short little crossbar between the two loops and make it go around that, and then back on itself you'll do 2 half hitches to tie it off. With the end of the rope, you will now go over to where the other cross junction of the loop is, and you can do a clove hitch on there to secure it in place to make a handle. If you have plenty of rope left over, you can decide the length of your handle and then you can do half hitches all along your handle. Now we're going to do the version with a packer's knot. You go over, you make kind of a figure of 8 and go back through where you came from. You tighten that with your short and your fixed bit, and then it will slide around and you can then tighten it as needed. Now to do a close-up recap of tying up your bedroll, once you've got your first loop nice and tight, hold it steady on the top of the bedroll and maneuver your rope so it goes around the bedroll and you come back in yourself where you're holding, and that's your second loop that you can then tighten as well. Once you've got 2 tightened loops, you then flip your bedroll and you then do a loop around the first rope, you do a loop around the second rope, and then we're going to flip the bedroll and come back to our first knot. If you go around the short crossbar and keep it nice and tight, you can then fasten that with 2 half hitches. There's 1 and 2. They're easy to undo. With the other end of the rope, you can tie a clove hitch onto the rope so that it's fastened, and therefore you now have your handle that you can carry your bedroll. The alternative is just to do a double overhand, so fold over the end of the rope and make a loop. And with this small loop that you've made, you can then thread the end of your rope through it to make your loop. If you are still learning your packer's knot, this is the first way that you can assure that you actually can make a loop around your bedroll and you can still tighten. And then you continue with your second loop, and then you flip, do your 2 loops around the ropes, and then finish off again with your 2 half hitches and your clove hitch. The reason we do a bedroll is that when you arrive at camp, it could be raining and you need to keep your bedding dry. So it's a great way of keeping everything together. It could accidentally fall into a puddle, a lake or a pool, and it will still be dry. Bedrolls were originally designed to be used in tents that didn't have any included flooring. The ground sheet that goes around the bedroll became your flooring in the tent. Some campsites still have these tents available that don't have a built-in floor, therefore your ground sheet becomes your floor and also keeps you dry and warmer. When you unroll your bedroll in a tent with a floor, it's important to push the excess ground sheet underneath your bed. This creates extra insulation from the ground and helps to keep the tent nice and tidy. The great part of having your bedroll on a ground sheet inside your tent is that if you need to air your tent for some reason during camp, you can just pull your whole bedroll out on your ground sheet. It also makes it easier at the end of camp if the conditions are dry outside, that you pull your bedroll out and you can roll it up outside the tent so there's more room in the tent. We hope you have learnt some useful information about making a bedroll and you enjoy your sleep at your next camp.